pick theme music, but I'll stitch hers. That was awesome.
It's always fun. Come on up front.
Awesome.
All right, how you doing?
Good. Excited to be here. I also did not do yoga.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, they're also probably still upstairs changing or something.
Understood.
So we're actually going to spend today going over some of those challenges. I know that we actually picked a few that you found really interesting and that I found really interesting and go over them. But before we start, I wanted to talk about Zazzle a little bit, because this really is your perspective from where you sit at Zazzle and also where you came from before that. So maybe we start with a little bit about you, your background, and then tell us a little bit about Zazzle.
Yeah, so my background, so I've been doing this about 20 years. I started off like many of us do, agency side, everything from nonprofits to high-tech, automotive industry, which is really amusing because I actually still don't drive. But a lot of political campaigns along the way. But where I really got my start in retail was in early 2000 at a company called Rugman.com. And I don't know if that company is still around, but it started off as an eBay business that was built on the premise of selling rugs online. And that was the best training ever. And I tell people that if you could sell a $5,000 rug in 2002 to people online, everything since then has been so much easier. Since then, I heard the siren call of going in-house. My first port of call in-house was at Atari, the gaming company, as VP of online. And gaming is one of those industries that's really fun because it's old school media, new school media mashed up together. But from Atari, I did my first startup 3 years into a company called Etsy. And I'm hoping most people know Etsy today, but I was at Etsy, head of marketing and merchandising, when I'd walk into a room like this and people would say, what is that? So I'm thrilled to have been part of Etsy's evolution to the brand that it is today. From Etsy, I went to Refinery 29, and, which is a fashion and lifestyle website. But all those things together have led me to where I am today at Zazzle, which is a company I love and a company I actually moved coast for, from hipster Brooklyn to the wilds of Silicon Valley.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so Zazzle. Yeah. If you don't know about Zazzle, we are a marketplace. We are an e-commerce website, and we're an ecosystem built around the premise of customization and making on demand. So like any good ecosystem, there's really 4 ways that you interact with Zazzle. Consumers come to Zazzle to customize products. We're getting up on 1,000 different products, everything from stamps to skateboards to bath mats. We just launched scales, so you can weigh yourself, you can customize scale. And we really run the gamut of what it means to be able to customize and put your stamp on something.
What is like the most customized thing you'd say? What's an example that somebody's made or
pillows.
Yeah. Okay.
People love a good custom pillow. We started off with mugs and t-shirts, kind of the basics, so those are still kind of our bread and butter. But it's amusing to me how much people still love a good pillow. The other way to interact with us is designers. If you are a designer, you can have a Zazzle store. There are millions of designers making a living on Zazzle. You upload your designs, charge a royalty, and there you go. It's very easy, no barrier to entry. The third part is makers. So we work with makers all across the country, everything from big makers like Avery and Casemate to small indie makers like Rickshaw Bags in San Francisco, Dodo Case in Berkeley, Chalkamize in Brooklyn. We really run the whole gamut. And the fourth part is we actually power customization for a lot of the big brands in the world. So Disney, Marvel, Warner Brothers, Angry Birds, you name it, they have their content on Zazzle. Really quickly, the fast facts. We are a $250 million company. We are profitable. We've been around 10 years, 16 different domains, and we do about 30 million visitors a month.
Cool. Who's your biggest competitor?
You know, it's really hard to say. In the old days, a lot of people would have thrown at Cafe Press, but where we are right now, we sit in this real sweet spot between an Amazon and an Etsy, where it's this concept of customization, but you can really come and buy a whole gamut of products. So that's
what
how we
about
like
the
to think
smaller
about
companies
ourselves.
coming from back there? Like I'm thinking like a Vistaprint almost, because they're doing customization, but decidedly for enterprise business.
Yeah, so I mean, their focus is still business. There's lots of, sort of these verticals that have sprung up, but our opportunity, and certainly where we are, is we can really hit the whole life stage, life cycle, the whole gamut of a season. I've never worked someplace, for example, where St. Patrick's Day was a huge, huge holiday, as big as Mother's Day. And it's because people love to customize stuff for St. Patrick's Day. Right. So it really can run the gamut.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. So what we did yesterday was, after we wrapped, we spent a few minutes with the challenge board, and we picked 4 or 5 of the biggest challenges, or the most interesting challenges. I took a few pictures, and I'm going to give you about a minute and a half on each one. They're going to go up on the screen, just to kind of give us what you think that really means and how you are dealing with that challenge, if you have it. Circling the margin drain. I'm ready what that means.
And so my disclaimer to this is I was just joking with folks earlier. I said this is like the Rorschach test, where it's like, what do you see when you see these words? What do these ink blots mean? So circling the margin drain, we are very proud of being profitable, so margin and margin activities are critical for us. We actually have a cross-functional meeting that happens on a very regular basis where anyone who touches any aspect of margin has to come to this meeting, and we all duke it out, we all arm wrestle it out in terms of what we're going to sort of impact and what we're not going to impact. On the marketing end of things, the piece that I control is promotions. And we are in a promotion-centric environment right now. Every consumer wants a good deal. And my job is to think about it obsessively, which I do. I have a 2 p.m. point in my calendar every single day, sometimes including weekends, where I'm evaluating our promotional strategy to decide what we're going to do. But at the end of the day, for us at Zazzle, it's really, we know the consumer wants a discount, but we never want to be a discount brand.
Yeah. What about moving sort of away from Zazzle for a second? I mean, is everybody in this promotional mindset, and why is that happening? And are people trying to get away from it? What are the challenges there?
I'll speak for myself on what I say. I do think that the consumer is in a promotional mindset. I think the Great Recession played a big part in that, and I think flash deal sites, all of that. I think the consumer really wants a deal. And I think they will go hunt for deals, hence the emergence of a Retail Me Not, all sorts of apps that are about promotion. So I do think everyone is playing that game. Every year I get more and more surprised by how certain luxury, quote unquote, luxury brands do end up discounting or don't. I think there is an upside to this. I think that there's an upswing actually in terms of having to be promotional. And I think there's lots of fun tools and technology out there so you can be more nuanced about only showing discounts to certain folks versus others. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's all live on the internet. It's all live on social media. So if you put a promo code out there, for example, people will find it. The avid
has that sort of affected? I mean, is that why we're seeing sort of Saks off Fifth do much better than Saks? We see Nordstrom Rack doing much better than Nordstrom.
I do think so. I think it's really tough for full price goods. And look, the consumer, it's the Amazon nation of all of us. The consumer wants free shipping, and with certain margin products, that's really, really tough. So you really have to up the ante for that with things like customer support. Are you giving sort of a better service, if you will? If you can't compete on shipping, which for a lot of folks with their margins, they can't.
They can't. All right, next one. Lack of agency, R&D budget. Oh, this person has a lot of challenges. Lack of agency, R&D budget, exploring new strategy, and technology.
Okay. So Rorschach test, lack of agency to me could mean 2 things. It could mean you don't have an actual ad agency, or it could mean you don't have control.
I think it might be the second one.
Okay. And then the R&D budget, exploring new strategy and technology. So here's where my head goes here. This is about, I specialize in scrappiness, and I really think that I don't care how big or small you are as an organization, I see all those sizes. Scrappiness is king right now in terms of implementing things. For me, and as I think about this, I always sort of devote 10 to 20% of site traffic to testing, even during the engineers don't like us, even during holiday season.
Okay.
Because I think there's a lot of learnings you can get during your peak holiday season.
How do you justify that to the people who are like, where am I spending all this money? And is there, because not every time does something great come out of those things.
It doesn't, but I don't think you can if you just don't test and measure. I think that has to be the mantra. I think if you don't have control over things, and if you're not able to get control, having that set up so that you have a regular testing budget, and even if you don't have the money, by budget, I mean you've budgeted a certain amount of your traffic or a certain amount of your emails, certain amount of your channels for testing where you do have control can serve you really well. New strategy, new technologies, it is so easy to be sort of swayed by the new shiny thing. And my mantra throughout is know your customer and really, sort of that sort of soul-searching aspect that one needs to do to decide, is this new shiny thing over there the thing that I need to invest in?
What was the biggest mistake you made in terms of investing in that new shiny thing? Where was the last time you remember?
Well, geez, I mean, I remember MySpace. And it was an important part of life, and setting up MySpace pages and things like that. And I think social media is a great example where it's really easy to jump on every single social media bandwagon that's out there. But if you know your consumer and you just have a sense that your consumer's maybe skewing slightly older and she's not there for Snapchat, does Snapchat make sense for you right now, or are you going to double down on Pinterest? So I think it really comes down to that sort of, to thine own self be true and to thine consumer be true.
Too much data, too many platforms, sort of what you were just talking about. The too much data thing is interesting because we kind of discussed it back in the town hall too, that all these people were talking about, oh my God, we're getting data from these people and then we're getting them from here and we're getting data at every single step of that consumer process. That's a shit ton of data.
It's a shit ton of data, excuse my language. But really,
I'm sorry.
Went there. I consider myself on a daily basis, I'm a doctor. Dr. Nizzi, and I come in and I'm doing a daily health check. And at the end of the day, there's 10 or so metrics that I really care about, because it's very easy to go down another rabbit hole. And what I find is I do that daily health check. I've sort of whittled it down to what is it that I really need to know to monitor the health of my business, and then to see the opportunities. And then, I sort of have that time carved out during the week for 1 or 2 rabbit holes to explore. But at the end of the day, it's so easy to get inundated. There's just so many data platforms out there. I feel like everyone is slicing, no offense to vendors in the room, but everyone is sort of slicing and dicing every sort of part of this process. At the end of the day, it's pretty darn simple.
How do you equate sort of, having all this data and then that ROI part of things? Because I think people are still, on one hand, I still hear people talking about, oh my goodness, I don't have enough to really figure out my ROI questions or figure out what ROI I'm getting off certain things. But then you have all this data. Is there an issue of linking those two things, or is there an issue of not actually having too much data?
No, I think it's the issue of linking things.
Okay.
Look, at the end of the day, there's one metric that I really care about, other than my CEO isn't around, but other than obviously the growth and health of the company, it's Net Promoter Score.
Okay.
That still is really key. So you can have all the fancy things you want, but at the end of the day, if you can monitor on a daily basis, and for us, like I said, we're an ecosystem, so we're trying to get better about all these 4 different layers of people who interact with us, whether it's brand partners, makers, designers. How are they feeling about us on that daily basis? That gives me.
How do you find out how they're feeling about you on a daily basis?
You ask that question.
Every day?
How likely are you to remember?
They answer every day? Are they lying?
People do. People lie.
This is my
You're going to
thing.
learn. People lie. Yes.
People lie, right?
People do lie, but I think you'd be surprised with a single question, sort of the opportunity that you can get.
Okay. Last one. Build brand versus meet e-commerce goals. That's a good one.
Okay. So I, like I said, live and work in Silicon Valley, home of the new unicorn. And really what
it's like, is that the tourism board slogan?
It should be. It should be. It should just be, the 101 should just say home of the new unicorn. I just don't see how, if you don't focus on your e-commerce health and well-being, how you actually exist to have a brand. It just comes down to those fundamentals. Maybe it's because I'm surrounded by, and sort of my fellow exec team, a lot of Stanford economists, but I think at the end of the day, that health and well-being of your company is critical versus the investment you can sort of place in sort of the grandiose and the not so grandiose investments on brand building. They go hand in hand at some point, and I think what's interesting for where we are at Zazzle, we had been so focused on the e-commerce metrics that I can look around and say, maybe 50 to 60% of you had never even heard of Zazzle, even though we're relatively big. And that's because we had not focused anything on brand. We'd focused completely on the e-commerce. So my job now is to bring that back, but to bring the brand piece in a healthy, sensible manner. And that's hard to do when you're swayed by the media. You're swayed by a lot of stories. It's so easy to sort of turn your head each and every way and say, okay, they're saying this about this company, and the next thing you know, the company is sort of on a fire sale.
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing to do.
Where does most of your marketing budget go?
Right now, most of our marketing budget goes on search.
Can you share what percentage of your marketing budget is of your sales as your marketing budget?
Percentage of sales.
Like how much do you spend on marketing? Tell me as a percent, if you don't want to tell me.
No, I have to hide my homework a little bit on that, sadly. But we spend a good chunk of amount of Google.
Okay.
And organic. That's sort of been a big investment for us, the SEO part, because at the end of the day, it was about economics. It was about the health of the company versus the brand building.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you say brand building, we only have a few seconds left.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like, what did you really focus on right at the beginning? What was like the thing you started with as a
So
brand?
thinking about brand?
Yeah. Like, what did it mean?
Yeah, so I think really right now, brand is not just about sort of the PR that you're putting out there or the fancy events that you're putting out there. Brand is really how is the consumer interacting with you. Mm-hmm. So really, we're really focused. I also have the privilege and benefit of running our customer support team. So there's over 100 people who report into me, and those are those touch points when it really comes down to brand. But look, at the end of the day, as a good marketer, brand is about what do people know you? Do they think about you outside? Are you top of mind? Do you have mind share awareness? So that is kind of a key thing to work on. And certainly, I'll harken back to my Etsy days very quickly. Etsy, we do not spend money in those early days on anything brand building. So the best advice I can give to people about being scrappy is co-marketing, co-op partnerships. Those early days of Etsy, we partnered with everyone from NASA to Martha Stewart. We actually got stuff on one of the last shuttles going up. And that was just so we could get out there and get out there without having to pay money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Great. Well, we're out of time, but thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank you
so much.
This was fun. Thanks, everyone.
So, like